Hi, this is Eva, Mistress of the Morning, old school alumni from KSSU. Excited to be here and say, listen to KSSU. They've grown, and I'm so excited to see what they do next.
Hi everyone, I'm Bronte, your promo and events coordinator, and we're here with another alumni spotlight. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
I am Sally, well, Rivers, and now Robinson. Um, I don't know what to say. I was a DJ on the station. I was part of the group that helped get it all off the ground, but more of a secondary character, if you will, because again, we were the class just below the guys who founded the station. So yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. And a little bit about that, tell us about the years you were involved with the station and what was your role during that time?
Okay. So I joined up with the group in 1990. I helped out a little bit with, getting drinks for everybody during the 24-hour marathon. It was our very first one. We did it on the Student Union, on a space that seems to not be there anymore when I was last in the back there. And then um, there was a bit of a tragedy. I don't know if you know about that or not, but we'll get there. And then afterwards, when I came back from that, I was one of the morning DJs. I was Eva, Mistress of the Morning, and I was doing morning shift. I think twice to three times a week. I don't remember anymore. But yeah, it was very fun, and we were kind of all just pulling it all together and doing something we love.
I love that. And what was that like doing that morning show back in that early 90s you were talking about?
So we were basically stuck in with okay, here's the hours the library's open. That's when you can use your office space and your recording space and your, programming space. So it was based around library hours. So I would get there just before the library opened, run upstairs, get everything turned on for my shift anyway, and have pulled out music. Thankfully, we were able to just play what we wanted to play. There was a set of, okay, here's what you can play, pick from this set of stuff, make sure you have one brand new thing that nobody's ever heard, and here's that set. And then you would just go and you had your times of, okay, don't forget to play the promotions at this time and that, but the music we got to choose on our own. So that was really fun and exciting. And we got to record it ourselves. I'm sure you guys get to do that too at still. But it was always fun to just be in there in the quiet of the morning and start my day. And then I'd go to class, just like everybody else.
I love that. And that's a cool thing about student run radio. You can curate your own music.
Hmm.
It's not like when you listen and you're not listening to just the mainstream stuff, but you're listening to new stuff, things you've never heard of, which
Right.
is what I think radio is for.
Yes.
And then, how would you describe the energy at the station? Because I know it's a bit different now, especially after like the pandemic, like the
Oh,
energy
for
died
sure.
down a lot, and then we've been like rebuilding from there. But like, how was that energy back then, and what was sort of the culture on campus or at KSSU during that time?
Well, it was trying to find our identity, number one, because as you probably have learned as a member of the staff at KSSU, it wasn't called that when we started. We had KEDG was our call letters, and we were, just doing what we could. We started out with folks working with the local cable station that would offer us free time to promote and do that until the studio got built. Once the studio was built, we were able to, do our stuff again, having it piped into the dorms only. That was the other fun thing. And our engineer was amazing, Jim Bassett. He is one of our alumni. So it was a lot of ragtag. Let's do this. We really want to do this for the love of music, for the love of radio. And I think that we were all just, learning as we went and trying to figure out what parts we didn't have, what parts we needed, and pulling it all together. So it was really kind of ragtag. And we were not as celebrated, I think, as you all are now. But we had our radio, our best and our worst in the school paper, and what we were the top 13, I think it was. I've forgotten it at this point. Um, but yeah, we were just doing the thing and trying to get out as much new music because again, the new wave scene had just begun and the Bay Area had I think it was Live 105 even then, and Sacramento had just gotten their new wave station. And so we were kind of like, oh, we're right on the cusp of all of that and getting that music out. And a lot of us were fans of it. So we worked as much as we could with any of the stations that we could and collaborated as much as possible.
Love that. There was definitely a shift in music, and that's cool that you can be part of radio during that time.
Mhm.
And we recently brought back the 24-hour music or musical madness marathon.
Yes.
So it's kind of full circle because we haven't had that event since when you guys did that event. But tell us like a little bit about that if you remember anything or like how
So it was
that
just
was.
well, first off, getting permission from the college, of course, to take over the back lawn for 24 hours, and then the following year doing it in front of the cafeteria. I think is that the space anymore. Um, so we had to move it a few times, but getting the promotional stuff, getting Jolt Cola to give us soda to give away was kind of crazy. There's a photograph in the archives of our then promotions director Jim Bolt and two of our DJs, literally DJ Willis and Dave, and they did the Total Rockage show. So the two of them and Jim standing there looking at a truck bed of Jolt Cola. And then all of the records being given away. So it was just organizing. Okay, who's going to stay up? Who's going to sleep? We even had a tent out there so that people could, rotate through that first year. Um, and I know a bunch of the unique people who were part of unique programming. We were also, because that's where I come in, as being support staff and celebrating what y'all were doing and what was going on, and then being able to step into those shoes the following year. So it was kind of ragtag, but very fun. And we just, made our own flyers and cut and paste, and borrowed the copy machine in the union. And thankfully, the unique team was on board with us doing the radio station.
Yeah, that's awesome. I recently interviewed Jim Bolt and like there was a lot of that conversation, but it's cool to see it from your perspective of like building the station from the ground up. And then you also mentioned something about like being able to broadcast into the dormitories.
Yes.
What was that process like?
So it was trying to figure out where we were being heard. And when they did the wiring, they put it through conduit. So it was broadcast in the dorms, but you had to make sure you were plugged into the dorm. You couldn't use like an AM, FM radio type thing, and you had to have a plug in. And it was definitely, we did it for the love of doing it, but sometimes we just didn't know who was listening because you never know until somebody calls in and says, "Hey, I love that song. Can you play it again?" Or, "Hey, what was that song? I just missed it." And I think it was the fact that we were finally being heard. And it was all of us as students doing our best, taking the classes that we'd been taking and applying that to a real life experience instead of okay, so if you're in a studio, this is what you might do versus you're in the studio, you're on the air, watch your language, get your FCC license when that mattered, and just focusing on what your show was about and sharing your music. And then making sure that if somebody couldn't make it, you filled in and you traded shifts as needed because we were that much of a small group of folks. And I think it was really great that the new promotional director, Sherry Haskell, was out there, talking to all the bands in the Bay Area or in the Sacramento Bay Area and just really getting new bands when we could, helping promote all of that new stuff. And that was really a godsend because we had a lot of human connection versus depending on somebody to send you a record from a record station. We could go to new bands that we knew and we could talk to the unique folks and go, "Hey, did you guys get any new bands that you want to share with us that we can put on the air?" So that was kind of a nice way to cross promote as well.
Yeah, so you never know who's listening.
It's true.
And people, like students still to this day get surprised like when somebody calls in or
Yeah.
um but yeah, totally. And then tell us like a little bit about like your own radio show or whatever music you were playing at the time, whether it's genres or artists. And do you like still listen to them or
Yes. Okay. So I will say because of the radio station, that's when I first learned about the Bare Naked Ladies, the band, the Canadian band. I was very like really picked up their very first album that we had in the studio, and I might have taken it home, made a copy of it, brought it back, brought it back. Um, but I also was leaning a little bit more towards the funny music because I'm also a big Dr. Demento fan. So I would try and incorporate funny music, not just the, oh, this is great, whatever. Again, I was big with, let's see, who else did I play? My goodness, I should have re-listened to the tape before jumping on. But no, I still listen to a lot of the music I played. Again, it's the 80s music that I really loved, so I couldn't not play it. We did have, God, what am I thinking of? The Cramps were one of the ones that I know was a favorite. The Divinals, of course, with their one big song. But we also tried to play not just the big songs, Susie and the Banshees, but playing Happy Home, for example, or just not always playing their main music that you could find elsewhere. We would go find the album, play something that wasn't being regularly played that was still good. So, I mean, kind of like a B-side, but not a record, because we did have CDs at the time. And I think that's the big thing that's changed is that we had cassettes and we had records, we had CDs, and I think now there was a pulling away from CDs because of the whole analog versus digital for a while. And so it all went to digital for a bit because it was just easier not to break and it was cheaper to get. So that was kind of an interesting change to watch happen and watching all of the records kind of slowly go away and the CDs replacing them. And I
Yeah,
think I didn't
I
answer
love
your
that.
question.
Oh, no, you answered. I love that, like your process in curating music. I think that's awesome. And then, I've talked to the other alumni about this, but like we're um trying to educate like the volunteers or the student DJs on like using physical media still in radio.
Yes.
Like we did a workshop during physical media week to teach them how to burn CDs.
The
Um,
fact that you have a physical media workshop is just like
Yeah, everything's
we never thought
digital.
of that. There was always going to be physical music. It wasn't something we considered. We just considered, okay, is it going to be vinyl? Is it going to be CD or is it going to be a cassette tape? And do we have the machinery to blend it in that moment? And I will say, having done the 30th anniversary, having to bring in my music on Spotify was crazy at first because I'm like, how do I, what? And then it was easy. It was just a very smooth flow. So that was kind of neat. And I'm so excited to see what you guys do and how you take it and move it forward because you can pull in streaming as well as physical media. So that's really awesome. And have you all found that people prefer the analog sound or the digital sound? Have you guys had those conversations?
I think definitely after a physical media week, because we also had records and we have like one DJ who like does like mostly like records and CDs. But I think people definitely like started gravitating more towards like physical media or like having something tangible like in your hands was a lot more like satisfying.
Hmm.
So I think definitely people um, are feeling drawn to that as well as like digital because you said it's easier. People have classes, but uh, definitely we're trying to do a mix of both.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. And then to like shift gears, how did your experience at KSSU shape you personally and then also professionally with anything you're doing?
So with what I'm doing now, one of the things I do and have done for the last 13 years is I have a podcast of my own. It is mostly audio. It has just become video within the last 6 months because my friend was like, "Hey, we should do a YouTube channel," and I'm like, "Okay, let's do a YouTube channel." But it's just an extension of that podcast that I'd done for many years, and it was only audio. Um, so that's one of my that's a side thing. But I think doing the radio also gave me confidence to speak, to not be as shy and in person in meetings when I go to meetings. Um, and I have no problem just saying the thing and being serious about it and owning what I've said because it's recorded, but not always. When you're in meetings, it's not always recorded. But remembering to say less and like those are those words that when you are forming a thought, you say them out loud sometimes. And doing the radio station made me speak a little bit more professionally. It made me realize where I'm doing a lot of that. Thank goodness for the podcast, I did have an editor who could clip some of those out, but it reminded me, okay, when I'm having these conversations with people, professionally or otherwise, you need to be aware of what you're saying and how you speak. And I think that was due to all of the training that we did for ourselves on the station. We still did the like all the time, but I think we all became more and more conscious of it in our everyday life as well. So that was a good thing. How does it influence me? Like I said, I've got the podcast. I run conferences as for fun, not for work. And so I think doing the things that I learned in promotions and all of that with the station encouraged me to take a chance and do the conferences that I do and the work that I do, even if it's on a volunteer basis. And I'm a member of a board that puts on a science fiction convention for the last, well, this will be our 42nd uh, one doing it. I didn't do it for 42 years, but I was part of it, and that's some of the okay, I can do a radio station, I can do this. So, yeah,
Yeah, I love how you're involved in all these different things, like your podcast, science fiction, and all of that. And definitely filler words. That's something that I realize I say like every 2 seconds. So I was like,
yes,
okay, like I need to be more mindful of that for sure.
right. We all do. And I think when you are listening to your playbacks on the station, you get to hear where you fill those filler words. And then you start to be aware of it and you stop yourself when you're in your regular conversations. And that is a skill not everybody gets to hear or learn because they're not being recorded. They're not getting that feedback of, hey, by the way, did you know? And again, what is it? Public speaking is the one thing people fear the most. So radio is just an extension of that in a way because you're being recorded. So somebody can go back and go, "Hey, did you hear what you said?"
Exactly. Yeah, public speaking is not easy and
No,
especially is scary for a lot of us, but definitely the radio station helps with that.
for
I
sure.
love that. And then you mentioned you were at like the 30th anniversary, but now we're at the
35.
35th anniversary of KSSU. What does that like mean to you, or how does that feel to know that our student-run radio has been going on for that long?
Well, the fact that it's been going for that long is just amazing. We started out not knowing how we would impact. And going to, I think when we went to the 20th, because I've done the 20 and the 30, you guys had moved into the room which is behind. I think now it's part of your station, but there was a space behind that used to be the what was the room that we used it? It was like where we kept all the paper and all of the stuff for doing all the decorating around campus and around the student union specifically. And then that became a station. And then we come for the 30, and now you guys are out and you've got a window and everyone can see you when you're on the air. It's kind of great. And where you are now used to be the student store. I know, I worked there. So that was kind of crazy is to look at that and go, wait, where's the better use of the space. I love it. So that was kind of cool, is to just see how it's evolved and how much more front facing it is. We're not hiding in the back of the library or in the back of the building. It's out and everyone knows about the station. So that's really cool to be able to have experienced.
Yeah, I heard about how it started in like hidden away in the library and now it's like very visible
Yeah.
um with the window. Oh, so here used to be the student store?
Used to be the
Oh, okay.
student store.
Okay. I mean now it's like right next door. Like I can like go walk to it. But that's so funny.
Yeah.
And you worked at the
I
student
did.
store.
I did. Yeah, that was great. We had all of the Greek lettered shirts and all the candy. Because again, across the way used to be the newsstand. And I think the newsstand is still there. But in the student store, you would also have like you could buy sweatshirts and all of the things. And so, yeah, seeing it changed into this beautiful space where you guys get to have space to talk and meet and that the fact that the university is embracing it, which is also a wonderful treat to be able to see like this hard work that we put in as a group has now grown and blossomed. So wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. And as my last question, I wanted to ask if you had any advice for current KSSU DJs, just in general, and maybe if somebody, I know a lot of our DJs want to start a podcast. Do you have any advice about that as well?
Well, don't hesitate. Number one, just get out there and do it. Whatever your topic is, yes, you're going to go, oh my God, somebody's already doing it. So they're not you. They don't have your point of view. They don't have your perspective. I do a tarot podcast. Everybody's doing tarot podcasts that I know. But outside of my circle of friends, I've got a ton of people who don't know. So don't assume that your voice isn't needed or wanted and just do it. It's not hard and you have the ability. And with the way streaming is going these days, it's so easy to just say, okay, I'm gonna do it and do it. So yeah,
I love that. And what is your podcast name?
Tarot Visions
Tarot
live and it's
Visions?
on YouTube.
I will check that out. I love watching the tarot card readings and seeing like all of that.
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't just do that. We talk about the seasons of the year for pagans, because that's pagan. But we
Hmm.
also interview tarot luminaries and folks who have done work in the community. And so that's kind of a cool thing that we get to share with others who are interested in that sort of thing. But I also
That's
do tarot readings
awesome.
on the side, but not on the state, not on the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's the context and like the history. You gotta back that up, and
Oh, for sure.
yeah, like you're not like the other tarot card readers. Like you're the best.
Well, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I do know a lot of amazing people that I get to interview and share time with.
Yeah,
And like I said, I've been doing this for 13 years in different forms and varieties. So you can make the switch from just an audio podcast to a video podcast if that's what you want to do. And if you feel like you just have the face for radio, then you do an audio podcast. Nothing can stop you. Play the thing. And I'm going to use a line from one of my favorite movies that talks about doing broadcasting, Talk Hard from Pump Up the Volume, because that's a moment in time that made the most sense. We were all doing those kind of off the cuff radio things. So talk hard, folks.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you.